Tom Crawford is best known for being the breeder, trainer, and co-owner of Turbulator, one of Washington's greatest and most legendary thoroughbreds. Crawford grew up in Hope, Arkansas, met wife Marguerite in San Diego, and settled in Spokane to further his stature in the car business. Thoroughbred racing was a hobby, but Crawford had a knack, and horses became successful too. He was always fond of cowboys and got his fix through building a second home, a Hereford ranch in Montana. In the spring of 1965, Crawford took a once-in-a-lifetime road trip for racing in the Midwest, and this excursion produced a story that became Washington racing legend. The destination was River Downs in Cincinnati. Easily the best horse on the trip was Aryess, a versatile veteran with a fantastic Washington resume. Aryess was 8 years old in 1965, but was coming off a great season and had already piled up an amazing 22 career wins, plus 3 starts in the Longacres Mile. A multiple stakes winner, he was still more than capable. Crawford was good too, and crafty, with a plan. He wanted his own jockey for the Ohio meet, so he made a call to Maryland, where a couple of Washington regulars were riding. Clell Sherwood got the job.
Larry Pierce and I was living together, and he wanted to know if either one of us wanted to go, and Larry didn't want to go. I said I'd go, and that wasn't in my plans, but so he told me to come on home, and I told him I'd need a car to drive back there, and I said I had a pickup, but I'd rather have a car, and he said, well, come up to Spokane, that's what I'm doing, selling cars. And I went up there, and he picked me out a 65 Mustang Fastback, and it's a nice car, but I wished I still had it. I didn't know it was that nice.
Sherwood, a native of Selah, has been Emerald Downs superintendent of the jockeys room since the track's inception. He won 2 riding titles early in Yakima Meadows history and knew Crawford from riding all around Washington State.
And he always wore his suit, tall, he's 6'7" or at least, and suit and dressed nice.
Being an unknown in the Midwest, Crawford wasn't going to act like a know-it-all. In fact, he took the opposite route.
He was wearing overalls and had a yellow construction helmet on and riding that pony around, and he looked like Humpty Dumpty. But then when we ran Aryess, he came over in his suit. Had a big old 2-ton stock truck, had stuff tied all over it, like out here from no telling where, and he told a story. He told him, we've been in Montana. He said, we've never seen a racetrack quite like this. And then there was no video, so you couldn't, and no computers, nobody knew. He told him, he says, this kid's rode, but never on a track like this. And he was full of stories.
Spokane native John White was a big racing fan at a young age and heard tales of the Crawford Aryess story growing up. A few years back, he wrote an article on the subject for the WTBA magazine.
Well, I had the pleasure of watching Tom Crawford train while I was growing up, particularly at Playfair, as he ran a lot of horses at Playfair. He was always impeccably dressed, and he was such a sharp trainer. Usually, when years pass, stories are embellished, and you go back, and it turns out that much of what people are saying doesn't check out. The Aryess story really checked out.
Back to 1965. Crawford had a race picked out for Aryess on opening day in May and was not anxious to see him get claimed.
I got to the barn, and he told me, well, this is it. He says, you're not to talk to nobody for the first week here. He says, don't even say hi to him. He says, I don't want you talking to nobody. So then we went to train horses, and the first day he had Aryess in for 1,500 claiming. And I knew he had just ran in the Longacres Mile his last start, so I thought, well, this ought to be pretty good.
Running Aryess in the claimer would make him eligible for a starter allowance series. When the Daily Racing Form past performances came out, it showed Aryess in handicapped stakes races out west, but who really knew that much about Longacres in 1965 Ohio?
He told me, he says, okay, he says he'll win, but he says try not to win by too far. And I said, okay. I think he won by 12 or something. Equal the track record the first 5/8 of a mile. I couldn't hold him.
Aryess was indeed much the best.
the next day, I asked him about the Mustang. I said, "What do I got to owe on this and everything?" And he handed me the papers. He says, "It's yours." So I figured he must have did pretty good on Aryess.
Crawford was surely ready for that meet to open.
Next day, he claimed a horse out here for $4,000, smart print, and he ran him for $1,500 too. And sure enough, he wins real easy too. The third day, he ran a horse that he wasn't much horse. They were lined up to claim him.
Aryess was eligible for the Starter Allowance Series, much to the chagrin of his competition.
For him to accomplish what he did in Ohio, starting off on May 28th in a $1,500 claiming race, and running 9 times from May 28th to August 14th, winning 6 of those races, and in one of his losses, he carried 140 pounds.
Sherwood has all good memories of Crawford.
He's a class guy. I mean, whenever he thought a horse had a good chance, he bet $50 for me. And if he didn't win, it didn't bother him.
50 years ago, Washington beat Ohio in horse racing.